Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. I'm Nick Park. I'm taking us through the Old Testament books, and we're looking to see Jesus on every book, in fact, on every page of every book. And, we're really just picking out some ways in which Jesus is portrayed in the Old Testament. If we were to try to do a Take 5 on every single one of them, then this whole series would take us years. But we're in the book of Ezra now, and Ezra was a scribe who returned to Jerusalem in order to see the city rebuilt and to encourage holiness among his fellow Jews who had returned from exile. Now, this rebuilding of Jerusalem had been prophesied by God, but there were so many delays and frustrations. In the book of Ezra, a lot of it is about delays and frustrations. Isaiah, way back in 700 BC, before the Israelites were even carried off into captivity, before the temple was even destroyed, had already prophesied about a heathen king, Cyrus by name, in Isaiah 45 verses 1 to 4. Isaiah actually gave the guy's name long before he was born, and long before the captivity had taken place. Isaiah prophesied that a king called Cyrus would help the people of God return to their land once more. That was in 700 BC. The temple was destroyed by the Babylonians in 587 BC, and then in 539 BC, Cyrus and the Assyrians came and captured Babylon and overthrew the Babylonians. And 2 years later, he gave his order. So that was 50 years after the destruction of the temple. 3 years later, the work in Jerusalem was stopped because there were some Samaritans there indulged in political agitation that had a decree put out to stop the rebuilding of Jerusalem. And, it didn't really get going until 520 BC, 180 years after Isaiah's prophecy and 17 years after Cyrus had made his decree, and 47 years after the Babylonians had destroyed the temple. Well, the temple was completed and dedicated 5 years later, and then in 458 BC, Ezra finally arrives to find Jerusalem still has not been properly rebuilt, and that there's great problems among the people, sin in the camp, and he's got to deal with it and exhort them to return to holiness and dedication to the Lord. So there's a lot of frustrations, a lot of delays. And you know what? All this about promises being delayed, things being prophesied and is not seeing them yet and saying, Lord, is it ever going to happen? We need to understand that Jesus is the fulfillment of every promise that God makes. And this is what the book of Ezra is telling us all about. It's telling us that, you know what, the Bible's full of promises of blessing, promises of life, promises of household salvation, promises of healing, promises of your country. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then from heaven will I hear, says God, forgive them of their sin and heal their land. And sometimes we're taking these promises and they're not getting fulfilled right away, and like Ezra, we get frustrated and we say, Lord, is this ever going to happen? And the answer is that it's all fulfilled in Christ. There were promises that took thousands of years from Genesis to be fulfilled in Jesus Christ in the Gospels, and to be ultimately fulfilled in the future in the book of Revelation. So Jesus is the fulfillment of all the delayed promises. Jesus is the reward that makes all the frustrations along the way worthwhile. And that's the revelation of Jesus that we need to take on board from Ezra. So if you're feeling frustrated today, if you're feeling like, God, when are you going to fulfill that promise? Look to Jesus, because Ezra points us to Jesus as the fulfillment of everything that has been prophesied and promised by God. God bless you today. Join us again tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.